Y'all, Wizard101 is already changing the new Aquila spells in test realm. Last week when these came out, a lot of people gave feedback saying some of them were underwhelming. And it looks like, Wiz, listen, the new updated Aquila spells that we're going to be going over today are ridiculous. And these aren't even all the changes that are expected, I guess, to be done as test realm patches throughout this week. But if these are any indicator of where they're going, these are spells that people are going to want for both PvP and PvE. I'm going to start with easily the coolest one, Saturns Reaping. Now, last week, the top path of the spell was a hit and fuel, but it gave school-specific traps. And a fuel is 3 traps, right? Which a lot of people were saying this is not really any different than other hidden traps that you could just get by going into mid. So instead of making it a triple trap, they made it into an extremely powerful single trap. This is a 70% school-specific trap. So why is this such a big game changer? In PvP, I'm not really a billion% sure you could use this unless you're like just running mid dual school, because you want to use the damage on this with the trap. In PvE, this is a new type of feint basically, but instead of being a universal trap, it's based on the school of the caster. So if a fire were to use this, they can basically get a 70% fire trap. If a storm were to use this, they get a 70%, you know, storm trap. I'm gonna assume you can potent this as well. This is a great way to break weaknesses and shields and get a very, very powerful trap all at once, right? Unlike a feint, you don't have to run into the pitfalls of this trap that you're using, basically using up your buffs if you need to clear debuffs, right? If someone shields or weaknesses over a feint, that is a much worse thing, especially when it's universal, compared to when you have a tool that's basically more school specific. I think this is going to be a really good solo PvE tool. I would love to see bosses with cheats that make feints harder to use with things like self damage, and then you would really see maybe some out of the box thinking coming with these chromatic traps, these school specific traps. Maybe that could justify cooler bosses with different types of drops if you just go different, if you go about it differently. Now the next spell change is really, really cool. Now the Feebis spell, right? The bottom path, it's still a dot gambit. If y'all were here last week, basically what the spell does is it hits, and then for every damage overtime, I guess, that you have on your opponent, you'll basically sacrifice it for 1,000 health overtime on yourself. It's pretty cool, but I feel like the whole point of this is just to put dots on to heal, which I don't really get it over just healing. So I'm not sure how useful this part is, but the top hat is way better than the random hit and blade that we got last week. This is now the first detonate spell that life has ever seen, and it's a multiplier. So if y'all don't know what a detonate is, when there's a dot on your opponent, sometimes you have to, you know, wait as the dot does damage every round. In the case of life, most dots have become these things called bomb dots, meaning they'll do all of their damage rounds later all at once. So I would argue something like, let's say they have a spiny, right? You have to wait 6 rounds for the 3 damage overtimes that spiny is for it to detonate. Instead of waiting 6 rounds, maybe you have a good opportunity to use this spell. You could use it, get all the damage up front, and even multiply all the damage by 30%. There's some very, very notable things about this. This is the first triple detonate that we've ever seen in the game. There are single, double, and triple dots that you could do at base value. So to have a triple detonate, yes, it's 8 pips, but this could be a really, really useful tool, even if you have triple dots not on a light. Other thing that I think is super, super notable is that Raging Bull is a double detonate, but the multiplier is way higher than the 130%. This is like a 180% type of thing, which some people might look at that and be like, wow, this doesn't really feel fair. Like, why is one detonate way better than the other? But I think it is worth noting, right, that a detonate only does a multiplier on the damage remaining on a dot. Fire dots are not bomb dots. You're technically losing damage on a detonate every round the dot is out. So in my opinion, it makes more sense that the fire detonate is higher, because the later you do it, the less you're actually multiplying. It doesn't actually matter how many rounds after the dot you use this new Feebis spell. As long as you do it before it detonates, you can get the full multiplier. So yes, this is a very, very good spell for both life wizards. I mean, it's definitely going to be a life PvP thing, but it's also, I think, maybe a life dual school thing. I could see maybe life on Myth, because Myth is the other dot school. Maybe we could see that, especially because it also has bomb dots. But yes, this is the first triple detonate. We've seen Firecat single detonate. We've seen Raging Bull double detonate. We've seen Troll double detonate as well. Never seen a triple detonate. Life somehow got this with the Aquila update. I think the top hat is really, really amazing. And the other spell change that they did was with the Hades or Pluto spell. And actually, if y'all watched last week's video, both paths of this have been updated. The bottom path was a gambit of a harmful aura for 2 shields last week, and now it's 3 shields. And how this bottom path spell works is, this is like a mechanic we've never seen before, but if you were to weakness or trap aura your opponent, I guess as the aura runs out, or if you don't feel like you need the aura, you can basically do this, hit, sacrifice the weakness or trap aura, and instead of having that aura, you'll have 3 shields. They seem to be powerful shields. That being said, I think shields are pretty easy to break for a lot of schools. The top hat, very, very exciting. This is just a hit and universal weakness aura. So this is, in my opinion, one of the best spells that I've ever seen gotten as in terms of auras. The most comparable hit and weakness spell in the game right now is Heket, but in order to use this on a storm, you have to fuse a weakness aura with a base Heket spell. But if y'all have ever had this casted against you, this is an extremely powerful tool, and that's because you just have a very offensive school like Storm, getting a very defensive tool like a weakness aura. It's universally applicable. Now, for one more pip, but no fusion, we're actually seeing Death. Another school with very, very high damage get a very, very useful spell like this. I think it's kind of sad that you have to choose between a hit and weakness aura and something that can gambit a weakness aura. I feel like that's the one sad thing, because the gambiting of an aura that helps you is actually so new that I feel like I would love to try this, but obviously I think it's a no-brainer in PvP specifically to use the top path. But yeah, last week this was just a random hit and shield, which a lot of people said was just worse than Monk of Morning. So I'm very, very happy that we have something way more usable. I think this is another really good support tool in PvE as well. Now, last week when they first did put out all of these Aquila spells, right, I think a lot of people agreed that the Fire and Storm spells were fine. It looks like they took that feedback, didn't really change them. The Fire is still a really, really good triple dot. The Storm spell is still a hit and trap or a top hat. So what that leaves is Ice and Balance. These have not been changed yet. However, they've been discussing this apparently, as according to the messages in the Wizard101 Discord. I would love to see the bottom path of this not just do what Frost Giant does. I would love to see a Blade to Universal weakness spell. That's something that we've never seen. We've seen Blade to Chromatic weakness with Scarecrow. We've never seen a Blade to Universal weakness spell, and I think that would fall right under the identity of Ice and actually add something that we don't already have, because I just feel like Frost Giant's kind of, I don't know, it's already good enough. Why do we need a 1 pip higher for a Frost Giant spell like this? And the top path, I feel like their only, you know, logical thing to do now that we've seen what they've done with Myth is make it a single hit and trap. But it seems like chromatic traps, as in school specific traps that respond to the caster's school, like they seem to be a Myth thing. Maybe they could make this a hit and universal trap, but make it as powerful as, I guess, like a feint or something. I don't know if they can actually do that valuation wise. I mean, this is already a 9 pip spell, so I don't really see why they can't maybe move the damage down a little bit, transfer the value onto a trap, make it universal, make it a single trap, and then we could see a hit and feint, which would be a really, really cool support tool for Ice. And Balance, for a lot of people, this was the most disappointing spell. We've still not seen what they're gonna do with it, but I'll say this. Considering that the bottom path is a Blade Echo for 8 pips, and the bottom path of Balance's 8 pip spell already does something when people have a lot of blades, I think it's way too redundant. So I'd love to see this Echo become anything that's related to something that's not blade related. Maybe it could be like, I don't know, a shield echo, or maybe it could be like, I don't know, a trap echo. I don't think we've even seen that. I just don't think it should be blade related when Raw gives you a bunch of pips for blades at 8 pips. That's like crazy redundant. It also shouldn't be weakness related, because Balance King Art is also an 8 pip spell that echoes weaknesses. So maybe something related to the other hanging effects. I would appreciate that personally. And as far as the top path of the spell, if they're gonna follow the path that they've taken with the Myth one, it looks to be a very good PvE spell off of the decision to collapse some multiple blades and multiple traps into one. I'd love to see them do that, but make it a Blade Storm instead of a single blade. I just don't think a Balance wants to put 8 pips of damage or 8 pips of value into a spell that just blades them. I feel like the whole point of balance is that you blade everybody. I'd love to see for 8 pips, since it's not really doing that much damage, a hit and blade storm that's like closer to like, I don't know, maybe 50%. I don't know if that's like valid, but I feel like that would be so much better than what we have right now. Overall, y'all, I'm super happy with how this test run is going so far in terms of like how they're responding to feedback. I really hope they're not done. The triple detonate is looking great. The hit and weakness ore is looking amazing. That little hit and feint might be one of the best PvE buffs we've seen in a while. And obviously test run is still incomplete, so let me know what y'all think of the changes that made it into test run today. Let me know what y'all want the balance and ice spell to look at. And are there other things that feel underwhelming? Whether you do PvP or PvE, it looks like they're listening, so let me know in the comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed, y'all. Leave a sub if you're new, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon. And yeah, y'all.